It was a typical day in London, where the city's endless hustle collided with the stillness of history. Buckingham Palace stood proudly in the distance, its golden gates gleaming in the afternoon sun. The Royal Guard, ever stoic and unwavering, stood guard at their posts, a living testament to the centuries-old traditions that have shaped the very essence of the British monarchy. For most tourists, these guards were an awe-inspiring sight, revered for their disciplined ceremonial roles, but not all visitors held the same respect. Among the crowd gathered to catch a glimpse of the guards was a pair of young boys, brimming with that familiar cocky bravado only teenagers possess. They were loud, laughing as they joked with each other, seemingly unaware of the sacredness of the moment. To them, the sight of the Royal Guards, still and unyielding, was simply a curiosity, something to point at and laugh about. But today, these boys were about to make a choice that would lead to a moment they would never forget, a choice to disrespect the very institution they had no real understanding of. The boys' attention was drawn not to the guards themselves, but to the horses, majestic, well-trained animals that had stood by the sides of these guards for generations. These horses were more than just animals. They were part of the history, the pageantry, the duty that defined the royal family's presence. The boys, though, saw them as something entirely different, a target for their childish antics. With smirks on their faces, they exchanged glances, their minds swirling with the possibility of disrupting this sacred moment for their own amusement. In that instant, something shifted in the air. It was as though time itself slowed down. The boys, with their youthful arrogance, decided to take action. The first boy, without hesitation, stepped forward, eyes locked onto the horse closest to him. With a grin that bordered on mischievous and disrespectful, he reached out and slapped the horse's rear. A moment of pure recklessness, as he giggled at his own audacity. The horse, a creature trained for calm, stood still for a moment, but there was something unmistakable in its eyes. It snorted, a warning. The rider, a seasoned member of the Royal Guard, could feel the shift beneath him. A slight movement, but it was enough. The horse's ears perked, and its muscles tensed. This wasn't a playful tap. This was a disruption of the most profound kind. And the horse wasn't about to take it lightly. Before the first boy could even step back, his companion followed suit. The second boy, eager to join in the prank, moved closer to another horse, repeating the disrespectful gesture. The two of them laughed loudly, oblivious to the chain of events they were about to set in motion. But the guards weren't oblivious. The rider, trained to handle such distractions with a level of precision that only comes from years of experience, immediately recognized what had just happened. His face remained calm, but his grip on the reins tightened. He didn't need to say a word. The command was already there, an unspoken message between horse and rider. What these boys didn't understand was that the Royal Guards weren't just soldiers in ceremonial uniforms. They weren't just people wearing fancy hats and standing still for tourists' amusement. They were guardians of a centuries-old tradition, and they were trained to react swiftly and decisively to any threat to their duty or their charge. The horse wasn't just an animal, it was a part of that tradition, as much a symbol of the monarchy as the crown itself. And now, those boys had crossed a line. The rider's eyes narrowed, his training kicking in. Without a word, he pulled gently on the reins, guiding the horse to face the boys directly. The once placid animal, now slightly agitated, stood tall, its powerful muscles rippling beneath its coat. The tension in the air was palpable. The crowd, which had been absorbed in their own conversations and photos, began to notice the shift. The boys were no longer laughing. They were no longer carefree. The moment had arrived. The boys, realizing their mistake too late, began to shrink under the gaze of the guardsman, whose piercing eyes locked onto them. He was a man of few words, but his presence was commanding. His job was simple: protect the royal family's honor, preserve the integrity of the monarchy, and maintain the dignity of the guards and their horses. He had seen far worse than this, but this was different. This wasn't just a simple prank. This was a blatant display of disrespect. The boy who had first slapped the horse's rear began to back away, his once cocky grin replaced by a nervous tension. The second boy, seeing his friend retreat, hesitated, realizing the gravity of what they had done. They had angered not just the guard, but the entire legacy of the royal family. The guardsman dismounted, his boots clicking sharply against the stone pavement. There was no rush, no need for dramatics. His steps were deliberate, measured, like the weight of history itself was following him. He stopped just in front of the boys, towering over them. The crowd, sensing the seriousness of the situation, fell silent. "You think this is funny?" the guardsman asked, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. His tone was not one of rage, but of calm authority, an authority born from years of training, discipline, and loyalty to a cause much greater than these boys could ever comprehend. The first boy, now realizing how deeply he had messed up, opened his mouth to speak, but words failed him. His arrogance had evaporated. The second boy, equally stunned, remained silent. His head hung low. The boys stammered apologies, but it was too late. Apologies didn't undo the damage they had caused. The guardsman stood there, his expression unchanging, as the weight of their actions settled on them like a heavy cloak. "You've disrespected more than just the horse," the guardsman continued. "You've disrespected everything that we stand for. The crown, the legacy, the duty we uphold. It's not a joke. It's never a joke." The words struck the boys like a lightning bolt. They had thought they were playing pranks. They had thought the guards were nothing more than a novelty. But now, standing before them, they understood the gravity of their actions. The horse wasn't just a horse. The guard wasn't just a soldier. These were symbols of something that transcended their immature ideas of fun. With a final look at the boys, the guardsman mounted his horse once more, his posture returning to its usual regal composure. He didn't need to say another word. The lesson had been learned. The boys, humbled, slowly turned and began to retreat. They had been caught in a moment of foolishness, and now they would carry the weight of that foolishness with them. As they disappeared into the crowd, the royal guard resumed its watch, unwavering, unshaken. The horses, calm once again, stood tall, symbols of dignity, strength, and a tradition that no disrespectful gesture could ever undo. And as for those two boys, they would never forget the day they crossed paths with the royal guard. They had learned a valuable lesson, not just in respect, but in the true meaning of honor. And trust me, the consequences of their actions would follow them for a long time. So, if you ever find yourself near Buckingham Palace, watching the royal guard stand stoically, remember, the guards and their horses aren't just part of a show for tourists. They are living symbols of the crown's strength, of history, and of an unwavering dedication to duty. Respect that, and you'll never be part of a story like this one.